I'm Dr. Liz Stafford, and this is Primary Music in Conversation. My guest for this episode is Emma Cornhill, the head teacher of Fairburn Community Primary School in North Yorkshire. Now, you might be wondering straight away why we're suddenly talking to a head teacher when previously we've been talking to music subject leaders. Well, Fairburn has a really interesting setup. It is a teeny tiny school, as I'm sure Emma is about to let us know. It has mixed age classes. It has a very small number of staff, teachers and teaching assistants supporting it. And therefore, Emma is definitely the right person to talk about how they've organised music in their school. I hope you enjoy this episode. So welcome, Emma, to Primary Music in Conversation. Could you just let our listeners know who you are, where you're from, and a little bit of information about your school?
Absolutely. So I'm Emma Cornhill, and I'm from Fairburn Community Primary School, which is Yorkshire-ish. It's on all kinds of borders. North Yorkshire, West Yorkshire, South Yorkshire border. We're ish. Let's just leave us there. We've got 93 pupils, which makes us huge, I'd like to say, because I started out with 19. We are absolutely huge now. This is a huge school. So we've got three classes, Foundation Year 1, Year 2, 3, and Year 4, 5, 6. We employ about 12 members of staff. Lots of people are part-time, but we're really lucky for staffing. So we've got 2 or 3 members of staff in each class, which is really useful. So so we have a lovely challenge of being a small school, but we are very, very solution focused here at Fairburn. So it isn't a challenge because we've done lots of things to, with our curriculum to overcome those challenges. Yes, that's us really.
So one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, one of the many reasons, was because of the size of the school and also because we haven't spoken to a school yet where they've got mixed age classes. So I think that'll be really interesting. And also because we've been working together, I know you've put a lot of investment into music as well. So all of those things I'm sure will come out in this chat. But it would just be great to start by kind of asking you how you feel like music is going in your school at the moment.
Oh, really successfully. Which you'll be delighted to hear because you're our consultant. So that's really reassuring, isn't it? Your work is going well. We're advocating you a lot. We've just had a curriculum development day today where it's a really rare chance once in a year we have a day and my 3 teachers sit together and evaluate every subject. And we were just saying how successful music has been. Everybody feels really secure with what they're teaching. Everybody feels really excited by what they're teaching, the content of the plans we've got and how the plans fit together, and so really successfully I'm really passionate about music, but then I'm passionate about all parts of my curriculum, which is the reason why I came to work with you. So we employ a consultant for every area of our curriculum and have done for the last 5 or 6 years, and we've built a curriculum which is based in our local area, and takes account of our mixed age classes as well. But it's really important that we have a curriculum which really excites the children. So that's what we wanted to do for music. I wanted it to be accessible for all. I wanted it to be accessible for all staff so that they felt really supported, because music can be one of those things, can't it, that people just feel really nervous about teaching. And I know we've got an ECT in her second year, just about to come to the end of second year. And she's just said today, I've got a couple of units and I'm really not that sure about them. And I have no musical knowledge whatsoever. So that needs a little bit of revision. But the kids love music. It is we put a lot of attention, put a lot of effort into the arts in our school. We are very, very creative. And my husband's a music teacher, he's a piano teacher. I play, my daughter's a musician as well. So it runs through the blood, but I really wanted that to be passed on. I really didn't want it to be elitist because it can. I really wanted it to be for everybody, but I wanted it to have relevance as well. So that's how we've begun to piece our curriculum together. So yes, it's going very well. We've got lots of plans for what we will do to extend that. We're having a really big push on singing at the moment. And that's not to say we don't sing, but I want to do some more because there's such value and it's so joyful. And the curriculum is based on 2 really clear aims. When I first came here, I've been here 18 years now. And when I first came here, I just wanted the kids to enjoy coming to school, full stop. And I wanted them to have the highest standard of education we could provide, full stop. That's it. So it's really important to me that they got the best and they had some great positive musical experiences. And I wanted them to really get inside different types of music, to experience the diversity of it, to experience just anybody can access it at any time, and just to love it. I didn't want everything to be really educationalized and plan it to death and unpick the structure of it too much. We absolutely need that the further you got to school, but I just wanted them to love it and then really inspire people to go out and play instruments or go in concerts. And if people can do that, then it's job done, isn't it?
Absolutely, totally agree with you. And I think you've got so much, there are so many complexities in the way that you have to organize things. Like, for example, of two of your three classes are split key stage, aren't they? So
Yeah.
there's so certainly when we were working together on the curriculum, the amount of times I went cross-eyed and had to like, no, what does when do they move to the
Yeah.
next and how does that, and so, and you're doing that in all the subjects, so I mind blown.
Yeah.
But I wonder, do you think your teachers find the teaching of things like music more of a challenge because they've got the additional complication of working cross key stage, or do you think they're just used to it and it's just the way you do it and it just works?
Um, I think they would find it a lot more challenging, and they have done in the past before this current sort of cycle of the curriculum, where we've had it written for us properly. You know, not so much in music. That's not going to be a great example, but if you took literacy, for example, or maths, a number of times you've crashed your objectives together 1,000 times and sat pulling your hair out. And the same with music. Where do you begin? How do you begin to get your progression into it with mixed age classes? So that was very much a driving force for working with such as yourself and bringing you in. Because when you come to design a music curriculum, I remember sitting there and, say my husband's a piano teacher, but he's taught in secondary schools quite a long time. And I said to him, okay, so if you're going to write your own music curriculum, and I'm always in awe of people that do, and I know we've had people that have been on here that have, and I listened to someone the other week thinking, I don't know, you're so skilled, because I would not know where to start from that. And, we've got 10 subjects or so to balance. I wouldn't know where to begin. And how do you choose? I want them to have this lovely piece of music. I want them to learn this, but how do you cohesively put that together? So even for a single age class, that would blow my mind. It really would. And I'm a big curriculum reader. I do loads of research. Our curriculum's based on research. And the more I read about it, the more I just thought I'm not qualified for this. I really can't, which is why, we go to people and say, can you help us? And what's your expertise in this? Because then it really does take the headache out of it. So then you teach your music and it works beautifully and there's a flow there and you can really get excited about it, which is what's really comes across with the staff and the kids. So, but it has to be carefully put together, really.
I think I probably found it as challenging trying to work out how to do that curriculum as somebody who maybe was coming to it having not written a curriculum before, because nothing quite works in the way that you would expect.
Yeah.
It certainly, when it was so fascinating, it was one of the most interesting projects I've ever been involved in. And I'm actually really proud of, the end result that we've got. And part of me wants to reverse engineer that back into all the stuff that I've done previously in single age classes, because I think it makes you think more inclusively when you already know that you've got so many children of different ages in a
Yeah.
class. It just makes you, I think, design your learning activities in a totally different way, so that you're not thinking about like, oh, this is the majority, this is what most of them are going to get, and then these are the adaptations we're going to make at either end. It's actually a sort of a fully at least two, if not three, kind of pronged approach
Yeah.
to make things work. And having seen your teachers teach it fairly recently, I was just absolutely in awe, particularly in that year 4, 5, 6 class, where I think if you're a non-specialist, music's scary anyway, and then the idea
Absolutely.
that you've got 4, 5, and 6 in the same class, and also there were some additional needs and things in that class as well,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and just honestly, watching the standard of teaching was incredible. And I kind of came out of that thinking, A, what useful developmental stuff am I going to say? Because like otherwise I'm going to look like I don't know what I'm doing.
No,
Um,
not at all, not at all.
but B as well, when you're in that situation, to be able to deliver so well, there's no excuse for anybody else. Like,
No,
I
maybe not.
just,
I suppose I'm so passionate about small schools, and I've worked, my background's always been with them. I was in a large school for a year and really, really hated that. That really isn't for me. So I'm so passionate about the small schools and I understand it so well. And, we have such a good system in place to solve the problems that I suppose it becomes second nature. So I keep getting asked quite a lot recently about our curriculum for various reasons. And it's really hard to explain what we do. I don't know. We just do it. I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. I mean, I think what's become quite evident again today when we're evaluating the curriculum as a whole is that, one of the things I was really passionate about is that each subject is treated very differently. And, as I said previously, just a few minutes ago, I think schools can have a tendency to really put an education slant on things, can't they? So, you can kill a good art lesson, can't you, by planning something? And, artists don't do that. Musicians don't. They pick up an instrument and they play, they jam, you know. My husband plays many things and he's always jamming and just trying out different ideas on his guitar and just jamming on the piano and just that's what you do, isn't it? And I think if we're not careful in schools, I think we kill that process because we
mm,
want to formulate it, don't we? And we want to say, right, so we've got today's learning objective is we're going to do this. And absolutely, you've got to have a structure. So I don't want anyone to think it isn't structured. It is. It's structured, but it's structured with freedom. And that's what we've
mhm,
kind of concluded today. There's a great freedom in that. So in the terms of music, we looked at it in terms of musical categories. So, we've got the global folk and traditional music, which we chose as a category with you, Western classical, global film, global dance, and Western popular. Again, I feel really strongly that diversity must be innate in what we do. It mustn't be an add-on. I don't like Black History Week and things that feel like they're just arbitrary. We are in a very white school. We do have some more multi-ethnic children joined us recently, which is brilliant. We really celebrate that. But generally, we're white British. So there is an absolute pressure on there to make sure that they have an experience that
mm.
is natural and organic. So I wanted that sort of, when we designed the curriculum, I said, we've probably got a bit of a tick list, but can we not make it so it's, you know, really twee? I just want it to be really organic music that they don't even think about the fact that the person in front of them, what colour their skin is or where it's come from. It's just music. So we've taken those themes and we've basically threaded it on a rolling programme. So there's a foundation year one plan. That's on a 1 year plan actually, because it's based on year one. Foundation works in provision. So what really happens with them, which is just glorious, is that you'll show them something in a music lesson and they join in with the year ones and it's differentiated down. We've got, I suppose the secret behind it all is a blooming good progression map. That's the secret behind it, is knowing the progression of what's going off. So we've got skills and activities on the plan and we'd have foundation and then year one. And then foundation go off into provision and they will just take that idea with the instruments on their own and they'll practice it on their own and they'll group each other together. And it's a really organic thing as opposed to today, we're going to do music. So that's been really lovely. And then the year ones will go and join in with that because they're in this play-based provision as well. So that's been lovely. So we do have taught lessons absolutely every week. Every week we do. But we do have lots of time where it's threaded through the curriculum as well. And then, as I say, we take through, say, for example, if you take songs for Yorkshire, that's foundation year one. We've taken some songs from our local area and we sing those, which is really lovely. And then that goes and translates into calypso and gamelan in year 2, 3. And then tracing that through, I think it's Indian classical in year 4, 5, 6. So we've got this really lovely progression that goes all the way through, which is all the way through for global folk and traditional music. I could never have organised it like that. It wouldn't, we're so grateful that you have that foresight to do that because it just works beautifully. And, the rock and roll, the calypso, the Bollywood, the gamelan, movie musicals, one-word songs. You look through it all and it's just so rich. It's so rich and such a joy to teach. And the kids love it. They absolutely love it. Um, yeah, I can go on about it a long time, so stop me.
I think the other thing that might be worth mentioning for our listeners' benefit as well is that it's a spiral curriculum, obviously, and actually, spiral curriculum is like the ideal curriculum structure for a mixed age situation, really, and that we use the interrelated dimensions of music as the centre of the spiral, and we split them into categories which I randomly made up names for. So, so term one's
Works
called
well.
musical movement, and it's
Movement,
got
yeah.
pitch, rhythm,
Pitch, rhythm,
tempo
and
in it,
tempo, yeah,
and then
yeah,
musical expression, dynamics,
yeah,
timbre, texture, and then musical organization, which is structure and notation. And then within those termly blocks, there's 2 units, which is where those musical categories come in. So your global and
yeah,
your folk and your all that kind of stuff. And
yeah,
one of the reasons we did that was so that you'd got that flexibility, so that you could either come back round and teach exactly the same thing again the next year, but
yeah.
just upscale for the children who'd done it before. Here's your level of challenge, which is
Mm,
again a great way to progress on a spiral, because
mm.
musicians don't learn a piece of music and then never play it again. They
No,
return to it and get
no,
better.
yeah,
So you've got that option, but also if you're sick of it,
yeah,
all you need to do is switch it out for another type of music that fits in that category, and you still
yeah.
end up with a diversity in the curriculum, and you still end up with a balance and everything. But you're not going mad like spending 3 years learning the same song.
No, and when I gave that brief to you, I feel really passionate about that. I don't like being tied into something, and I think that's a bit of a kick. I'm terrible at it. That is a kickback from being in a school with a structure where, Monday you did this, and at 3:30 you could tell you what you're doing, and in the autumn term it was always the same. I just think as a teacher, that is so hard to keep fresh. That's so hard. Now, obviously, if you've got 1 year class, even if you've got a different class every year, that's pretty tough to come back to
Mm.
with, and I know every year group has a different, group of children and a different mix. And I know that brings the richness, but say for us, we've already got some children in the class that are still going to be there. They've done this before. So I felt really strongly about, well, we need some creative freedom as well. And that's how our curriculum works. Our staff have professional trust and creative freedom, but it is within a structure, so they don't feel like they can just, it's not random. There's nothing random about it, but there's
Mm.
definite freedoms to add things in, to change things, to get more confident with things. And so actually, let's have a go at this instead. Let's, like you say, let's change that piece of music for this one. And there's so much. It's written incredibly simply, and I think maybe that's what it is. Maybe the beauty of it is in its simplicity. It's not overly complicated at all, and it's underpinned by just this really great progression grid, which is key. Which is key. So you know what the children should be doing with really clear endpoints, and it makes your assessment easy as well, and everything's there. Yeah,
So we've talked quite a lot about the curriculum. What is going
yeah.
on extracurricular wise for
Oh,
music?
yes. Yeah, okay, quite a lot. So, first of all, the county music service come into us. We're very lucky we can still tap into that. And they can pretty much they come in and play in assemblies and things, so the kids get really inspired. We've got guitar lessons and piano lessons. About maybe 10 children, 15 children across the school partake of those. Um, so there's that going off. But then we do a huge amount of singing. And I've really ramped that up this last year. I read, you know, Sing Up, that fantastic. There's a great publication they do about becoming a singing school. And I just think there's so much research about how the academic side of things can be so much improved by singing. There's so much in there. And just the sheer fun of it, and just the sheer joy of doing that and feeling together and a community. And we do a huge amount together because it does act like a family. Now, don't get me wrong, with all good families, there's days that are rough. You can get fed up with your family, can't you? So that's still a feature, but it just brings you together. So we've done a lot on that this year. So one of the things which we're doing for our sins, I'm beginning to regret it right now, is we're singing with a local choir in a few weeks' time. So the Fairburn singers, they're quite well known. They do quite a lot of stuff, and I sort of approached them and said, we'd really, really like to do can we do a joint concert? And they were delighted. I think they now think it's going to be annual. I'm going to see how this goes first before we do that. um, but that's going to be lovely. And it's going to be in a lovely concert hall down the road, a little centre, and they're all taking part. And just to be in that and on the stage and have a sense of presence, I think that's really lovely. We do take part in Young Voices. It is not my favourite thing. I know that is not a popular view. I know it isn't. I don't mind if you shoot me for that. It is not my favourite thing in the world, but it does provide a certain type of experience. So it all adds to your repertoire, doesn't it? We take them to live music sessions. We'll take them to concerts, and we take them to Harrogate and take them to the ballet and listen to productions, hear music as live music as much as possible, bring musicians into the school. We haven't this year done so many music workshops, but we do some music workshops as well and bring drummers in and all kinds of things. So yeah, there's quite a lot. Big Christmas play, massive Christmas play where the whole village comes to that. We do a massive Christmas light switch on and the whole village comes to that. We cover all the school in Christmas lights. You cannot see it here at all. It's to an inch of its light, and the kids sing there as well. So I suppose when you sort of tease it out, singing's been quite something that we've kind of embraced really. And I just think it's so inclusive, so everyone can do that. So I think it seemed a natural thing for us to do. So yeah, so there's quite a lot going on. We don't have the luxury. I know when I've listened to other people speak of, have you got your own school choir? No, we don't. Actually, we don't do that at the minute. We teach recorder is our chosen instrument. And I know that's a bit of a hot potato. Is it ukulele? Is it whatever? Is it? We chose recorder. So all the children will learn to do that in year 4. Again, purely practical terms. They're cheap and everyone can have one and they can take them home and I can disinfect them. And for your non-specialist, that's it. It's very cheap. It's all very practical. For your non-specialists, the class teacher that's in there, she has got some experience playing clarinet and woodwind, but generally everyone can have a go at teaching the recorder, can't they? Because there's a tutor and it works very well. And it's something they can all take home. And if they lose them, that's not the end of the world, is it? It's just not the end of the world. So I think that's that's the reason why. So yes, lots of opportunities. I'd like there to be more. We're always on the lookout for more. But again, locally, that's what we look at locally. That's why we're interested in the local choir. Actually, I tell you what else we do as well. I keep forgetting. We do go and sing. We sing to there's a pop-up cafe in the village for older people to attend, and they meet every week. And it's a lovely place we can go and just not be lonely, connect together. So we do quite a lot with them. We did VE Day with them and did a joint celebration and we sang. And then we go at Christmas and sing to them as well and have a joint sing song together, which is just a lovely community thing to do. So yeah, not bad actually. Not bad. I've got quite a few things going in.
And so when you're taking children out and about to sing, is that literally all of your pupils, or do you pick a particular year group, or how does that work?
Oh no, we go on mass. We go on mass. We're all on going on mass. The concert with the Fairburn singers, we've only opened up to year 3, 4, 5, and 6 because it's going to be an hour. You're going to be sat on a stage. I didn't feel that was perhaps appropriate for foundation year 1 and 2, but everything else, no, we all go together. No, and foundation mix very well with year 6. It is they do a lot together, so they'll be stood next to each other singing or just sharing that music. So yeah, it's a mixed. Oh no, it's all
And
for one and one for all.
does that ever pose problems like when you're trying to learn the music and stuff? If you've got such a range, are you like learning separately and then coming together, or are you just all bashing through everything with that huge age range of children?
Okay, so interesting point. So one of the things we've talked about today is we'd like to put a bit more progression perhaps in the singing. So we'd like to have some more parts singing going off. We experimented that at the Christmas play last year. So we had a separate group that we taught separately and then they harmonised with the others. We'd like to do more of that. Certainly for this concert that we're doing in the next few weeks, no, we're all together. We bring them all together. And we're learning that. But no, generally it isn't problematic. I think if we were playing instruments, it is. I think that would be a different matter, but we're not really. We've just started putting a few percussion instruments and things in assemblies when we're singing. Try that's from actually an inclusivity point of view. We've got some children who've got some quite high needs and really can't access singing at all. So actually to give them some percussion instruments makes them feel part of that, so that it becomes an inclusive activity and one that's fun. No, but I think if we did, as I say, if we had instruments that we were playing or pieces of music preparing for different, then we would have to split up. But yeah,
And
no.
I'm wondering, I suppose my next question, because I've asked quite a few people so far about like year six and singing and that kind of thing. I'm assuming that everybody's just happy to sing all the way through in your school
Oh
because,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And when the year sixes organise their own leavers assembly, they design it and plan it and deliver it as they must do in most schools. But singing features really a lot for them, and they'll pull out their favourite songs from foundation stage that they want to sing, or stuff like that. I mean, I think that part of the thing why I raised the bar of singing a bit last year and was like, oh, it's because I was really fed up of the year sixes bringing out the same things. I'm blooming bananas in pajamas, and they were like, "Can we sing that in our leavers assignment?" I was like, "I don't want you to. Can we sing something else?" But that was fond memories for them, and they'll talk about that and say, we love singing that in foundation stage. We loved singing, and we've put singing, as I say, into the curriculum a bit more. So I've just been following somebody on YouTube who uses songs and concepts. We've all the county song or the country song, and how effective that is. A teacher today was recounting that her fours and fives know the water cycle and can explain it, and yet they haven't been taught it yet, because the year sixes 2 years ago were taught that in their plan, and they learnt a song to sing it, which everybody's done. I think it's quite a well-known song, and they sing it endlessly all the time. They sing it on the coach, they sing it everywhere. And so the fours and fives have picked that up, and they're quite knowledgeable on the water cycle just from the song. Foundation stage, we've been looking recently, and year ones, we've been looking at geography. We had to look at the UK and the British Isles. They've been singing a song all year about that. There's very little teaching involved. They can tell me as soon as you say, "Okay, does anybody know what the capital city of London is?" They just burst into song, and off you go. And it's like, I just wanted the answer, London. Just wanted London, but okay, we're in it now. But actually, what a great way to retain information. What a great way. And I suppose the thing which I don't really associate with music, but our maths curriculum is Number Fun, written by Dave Godfrey. And that is based on song. It's based on song and story. So they have song and story to explain a mathematical concept. And in their SATs a few weeks ago, they're humming what they're doing, because they're remembering the concept, or they're remembering a process they need to do, or they're remembering a strategy, and it's helping them. So isn't music so powerful that it can help you retain? We do such a lot, don't we, on recall strategies. That's a bit of a buzzword at the moment, isn't it? What we're all doing for recall, how are we doing that? Lolly sticks out of our pots and all that stuff. Well, actually, music is incredibly powerful for that, because every single time foundation year one burst into song, and they do their little repertoire of the county song and the country song and whatever else, aren't they just rehashing the information and the teaching? So really powerful, really powerful. I feel like we've gone off
And
tangent there a little bit somehow or another. I don't know how we
no,
got onto
no,
that,
no,
but anyway.
no, absolutely not. But however, bringing it back,
Yes, good.
Not that we were at a tangent, but
I think we went off there a bit. I think we went off a bit.
we mentioned recorder and year four.
Yes.
So is it just your year fours that are having that recorder? So that they're not in their mixed age group for that? Okay.
No, we take them out for that, and they have a whole year of it, and just have like a half an hour session, and then do a bit of practice at home. But then that does come back into lessons. So in every lesson, there is there's the you perform, you play something. It's how it's been written. That's how you've written it. We listen to something, we play something, or we might sing something. And so they can then use more tuned instruments. We've got xylophones and we've got chime bars and things, and they can use more tuned instruments, and they can, when they're recording, in that 5/6 stuff. So that's how it works through, really. I find the whole thing about learning an instrument a little bit, isn't it a contentious issue? My husband's a piano teacher. It's 10,000 hours to be absolutely fantastic at something, to really master it. And I know that's high end, but you can't just very easily, I think it was touched on the other week in the podcast, wasn't it? You can't very easily just learn an instrument on half an hour a week without any practice. It's a false idea, isn't it? Music isn't like a club. I mean, that's just a bit of a, I hear that every day in my household. They haven't practiced. It's not a club, You have to do something different. And so I think it is slightly different, isn't it? So I know we've had many heated debates in our house between us, and I've said, so we're gonna, we need to learn the curriculum and the the music plan. They really want us to learn an instrument. It's like, what, in a year? You're having a laugh, aren't you? What you do? And it's caused all kinds of really big debates about that. But really, the essence of it is, aren't we just giving them a really good experience of being able to do something a bit deeper than just have your percussion instruments and stay there? Which hopefully they'll be able to go on and use. And I chose the recorder because you can have a tenor recorder and you can obviously take it up, can't you, and a bass. We haven't got to that stage yet. That is my pipe dream. I just like to say we're still on the descant. But there is the scope, isn't there? Because then I was thinking in future, we could have some lovely recorder groups happening, couldn't you, where you could have still some of your fives and sixes that are playing a different, a different type of recorder, a tenor or whatever, and you've still got the descant going with your year fours. So then you start to do some lovely ensemble pieces, don't you? We are not there yet. That is where we are going. That is where we are
going. Very rude question.
No.
How are you paying for all of this? Because a lot of the people I've spoken to are in these 3 form entry schools, so there's a kind of, the more children you've got, the more money you've got, therefore theoretically the more kind of leeway you've got, but obviously you're a very small school, so how is that all working?
Absolutely. It's a well-oiled question, this one. Everyone asks me that question. So I think I've just been talking to a small school today who are really struggling, and they're having to start again. They've got no curriculum. They've had a really difficult time. And, they've got a pot of 1,750 quid for CPD. I think it's never been better than it has been now, because so many people, such as yourself, are offering online courses. We don't have to have people come out to the school, which costs such a load of money. We can do a load of stuff online. We can gather in a staff meeting. And as an approach, I suppose we've taken that on more over the years, because we coordinate everything together. So I should just say that we don't have any of those people to coordinate all these subjects. So we take the foundation subjects. We've got I'm English coordinator in theory, in name, when an Ofsted inspector comes through the door. Sophie's maths, one of my junior teachers. But then the rest of it we do together. So we have a really careful plan. It's based on the EEF approach, where we're exploring some things, and some things we're sustaining, and other things we're in the process of trying something out. So it's very carefully structured, so nobody's overloaded, because in a small school you could be really, 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 really overloaded. And today's process of evaluating the curriculum has been to say, right, what are we going to tinker with next? Which is staying as it is? Music is working beautifully. We need to keep up our CPD. So next year we'll be logging online to some of your stuff, just picking some courses to keep your knowledge there. We do CPD every single term in every single subject, but that might be a half-hour online thing, or it might be like this year we need a lot more input in science. We've squashed the science curriculum and we started again, and that's going to take some more face-to-face people coming in and sorting that out. So I started off, a few years ago when I first started this, the school was in deficit. We had a £47,000 deficit. So it's not that I come at it from an easy place. The world I live in today is very different from where I first started. I think we had a very small budget. And again, you look for stuff online, you then prioritize. So like at one point we prioritized you, and we said, right, okay, so this year is the year of music. So all of our face-to-face stuff, this is what it's going to cost us. The majority of it is going on music. Okay. Everything else we're tinkering with. And that's how you begin to afford it. It does work. You've just got to be quite disciplined. But we're proof we've made it work. We're proof it can work.
And I suppose being such a small school, there's nowhere to hide, is there? Whereas if you're in a bigger school, you can be like, oh, I'm not doing that bit and I can't. But you're all in it together, aren't you? And everybody's just on board with everything.
Yeah, and the power of planning it together. When I think about over the years, I've been teaching for 25, 26 years now. The power of not going off, you look at it now and you think, God, I can't believe we did that. I'd go off to a music conference and come back, and you're all excited, aren't you? And you come through the door and little Johnny's done whatever and your class has done whatever, and then it all dissipates, doesn't it? And then you're like, yeah, I really need some staff meeting time. I really need some staff meeting time. And you never get it, do you? We absolutely threw that approach out a long time ago. So we all do the same CPD now together. I'm going to come back to how we differentiate that. We have differentiated CPD now. We're moving on. We're moving on, but we all do it together, and because we coordinated together. In a recent Ofsted, it came across really strongly because everybody knows this curriculum backwards. The foundation stage teacher, the foundation year 1 teacher, knows exactly what's in the year 6 curriculum. She knows what she's starting, and she knows where it's got to go to. So everybody understands their place, and they understand the real value of what they've got to do. Equally, year 6, year 4, 5, 6, they understand what there's already come before it. They know, and they've written it. Everybody's written it. Everybody understands it because they've written it. So everybody's got ownership of it, and that's incredibly powerful. There's nothing worse, is there, than being given something. And we've just had that big debate today because we're having a new teacher join us in September who's come from a very different set of surroundings, and everything's being dictated to. And she said, she's moving because she's frustrated with that. She wants some empowerment. She wants to be able to have some freedom within the curriculum to put her stamp on it and to interpret things her way. But in terms of, I suppose, how we differentiate it this year, one of the things that you alluded to earlier when you came in was that we don't very often have staff changes. We're very steady. Pupil numbers are very steady. But we did, it was a shock a couple of years ago because 2 teachers that have been here for sort of, a long time, both retired. How very dare they? It was like, right, well, two out of 3 of the club people have gone. This is interesting. That's 2/3 of my staff, in effect. This is very interesting. So again, it tests your curriculum because, if it's beautifully written, then they absolutely can pick something up and it's there for them and they can understand it. Now, yes, there's an awful lot of CPD that needs to go in the background of that, and we were talking about that. But what we did was recently with our consultants is that those that we could, so, I think you're one of our furthest ones, but we do have a geography consultant, which is in London, and an RE consultant. Fiona Moss is down there as well. So they're quite tricky. They have to come up and it's a big thing. But what we did was we've had our consultants come into school and they've done team teaching with us for an afternoon. I've sort of gone round the 3 classes, spent half an hour or so in there, taught a lesson alongside them. And then every member of staff has had their own specific feedback. So we've got a new ECT that's come in. Charlotte's been here. Sophie's got 7 years experience in 4, 5, 6. They both need something different, so to have one lot of CPD actually isn't really that helpful. It isn't. So that's been just brilliant because then they could get some individual feedback and then they know where they're going with their own teaching. And that's been really worth doing. Now, that might have taken up some of our budget because you're having someone coming to school face to face. Is it worth it? 100% it is. 100% it is because it's personalised and it's relevant and it has a big difference. And actually, the ECT said to me today, can I talk to her again? Is she coming up again? I really want to talk to Liz because I just want, now I'm in a different place to where I was. I want to check some stuff out with her. And it's just constantly, isn't it? Moving the curriculum on, refining it, and making it better. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose music particularly is one of those things that it's really difficult to understand on the page. And,
Yes.
Sometimes you just need to watch somebody do it and then you're like, oh yeah, I can do that.
Exactly. And I also, we're really going to the essence today of what we felt it, were her expectations just a bit too high, really, because we were talking about the essence of music is children, not everything they're going to produce is going to sound wonderful. Sometimes it's cringy, isn't it? But it's so relevant because they are doing what you need them to do. It's just that we get so used to it, to listen to polished pieces of music, and there's that model there, isn't there? Whereas actually a musician is having a go. When you first start playing the guitar, it's painful. My daughter played the viola. Dear God, I was glad when she gave that up. But really, it's painful, isn't it? Music making can be painful. You don't just pick it up and do this beautiful song, and it's incremental. And so again, I think you just need to sort of recognize that and say, okay, so what I want them to do is I want them to get this end product, but I think I need to be really realistic about what the end product is and not be too not be too focused on that. I think there's a time for some polish. You know, this performance with the choir we're going to do, I really want them to feel a bit polished. Hence, I've asked you to come up and do a bit of coaching with us, because that's very important. And I want them to feel what it feels like to be polished. Whereas in our normal music lessons, I just want them to experience it. And that's the most important thing, isn't it? And the end piece will have been practiced and rehearsed. But then the nature of teaching primary music is that you won't spend 6 weeks on a piece of music, will you, like you would if it's the piano, and practice it and get to a polished piece. And again, I think amongst musicians, and particularly amongst maybe musician teachers, isn't that a bit of a debate? When do you choose to take them off a piece of music? You know, I have that daily in my household. To which extent am I stopping this child playing this piece of music? How far am I going for perfection? Do we want to instill in them a piece of perfection, or do we actually just want them to experience playing and get the real gist of it, get the gist of what that piece is teaching them, and then move it on so they've got more repertoire? Isn't that the joy of the essence of music?
Yeah, I suppose there's an argument for both sides, isn't there? And I think one of the things you said earlier actually just kind of made me think this about children having experiences, but also children having experiences of doing things that require putting in additional effort.
Yeah,
Because so much of the stuff that they do is just not easy, but readily there and available for them. And perhaps we're losing the sense of having to really try to do something.
absolutely. And isn't that a lovely uniqueness of music? It's what we're saying. It's not a club, is it? It's not like basketball. Now that's going to make me sound, there'll be a million people that play basketball now, or football, go, we all have to practice. I know you do. I know. I didn't mean that. I am about to say that. But I think with music, you have to practice and you have to persevere to see an end result. And isn't that a great life skill? Isn't that a great life skill? And I often think schools that don't really prioritize music or the arts or anything like that, don't they miss out on such a massive life skill? Because it does teach you that not everything is just automatic. You don't get everything right first time. You know, it's a completely different art form to maths, isn't it? I know you need to practice stuff, but generally you learn a concept, say you get the concept, you practice it, job done. Music isn't. It's incremental, it's slower. And it's a completely different set of life skills. And I think that's so important, isn't it, to have that perseverance. And I know when we're practicing with either foundation, I always remember when I teach foundation year one, I'm a teaching head, and the first time you say, okay, so we did a great job at singing that song. Let's just practice it again and do it again. What do you mean practicing it again? What do you mean we've sung it? I've sung it. No, we're going to practice it again. Or trying to get them, I found that quite tricky, trying to get them to, they've played a little tune on their instruments, and it's trying to get them to remember what they played to practice it again. There's all kinds of things. And I'm not saying we do that, but you know what I mean? It's that, isn't it? And saying, actually, it's a different kind of discipline. It's a different kind of discipline to everything else. But that's what I wanted them to experience in the curriculum. I want them to experience science in its absolute purest sense. I want them to experience being a historian and a geographer and a musician. 100%. That's part of, I feel very passionate about that, because otherwise, where are our next musicians coming from? Where are our next scientists coming from? You want them to have that passion, don't you? And just feel that they can access something and really excel at something, because I think English and maths is so vitally important, obviously, but it isn't everything, is it? And so that's why I've always had a really rounded curriculum. I feel really strongly about that. My year sixes are still doing a full curriculum in SATS week. We're still, right up until SATS week, we still don't stop the curriculum because SATS week is there. We absolutely do practice, but they still carry on. We don't halt anything. And I know sometimes in schools they don't do anything in term one and term two, and then suddenly in summer term it's all really creative. We don't. We keep it running throughout. And it works very successfully.
That is, I'm happy to hear that, because that is not my experience of most schools.
No, I know.
Is
I
we
realise.
get to day one of year six, it's like, we're just doing boring stuff now until June.
I know. Yeah, I know. And why wouldn't you? Because schools are under so much pressure. Why absolutely wouldn't you do that? 100%. And I completely get that. But I've been around the block enough times to know that actually they will. I was on a fantastic literacy conference actually a few months ago, and they were absolutely making the point Practicing the same reading comprehension or a reading comprehension paper over and over and over again is not going to let them pass the reading comprehension, because often the reading comprehensions are about what's going on in the world. There'll be a non-fiction piece, like this year it's chess. Okay, right, okay. So if you'd stopped, if your kids played chess on a Friday at any time or any time, but you'd stopped all that, aren't you just stopping them having the knowledge of what's happening? If they've got a knowledge of a great range of subjects, they can access the literacy and the reading comprehension because it doesn't seem so foreign to them. And actually hearing somebody say that out loud was really inspiring. It's like, yes, exactly. That's my point. What they're doing is going to culminate somewhere in that. And yes, of course, they need practice with a reading paper and the strategy of an exam practice, but they need to experience other parts of the curriculum so that they can then access that. And that's really important. So, yeah, absolutely.
So, final question.
Yes.
I dread to ask this because you're doing so much already. We know you've got a master plan for a recorder ensemble, but what else
Yes.
is coming up in the future? What new stuff are you hoping to do next year?
Well, as I say, I think the singing, that's started to thread through, but I really want to take that more. We've talked about it today, just bringing that through the curriculum more. We do that beautifully in Foundation Year 1. I'd like it to thread through a lot more. And we've talked about the power on the few times that people have done that. Everyone said, oh, actually, yeah, as I said to you earlier about the water cycle or about whatever, that has really worked. So we need to find some resources, I suppose, to do that. I think Sing Up, to be fair, has got loads of stuff on there for the curriculum that you can access. I don't want it to be twee. I don't want it to be formulaic. You know, if you're not careful, I think people start to do that with books and things. We've got books attached to topics and lessons and plans, but not in music, because funny enough, it doesn't work. It doesn't really go. You don't need a text. You don't need to read a book in music. But I think there's a place for the singing for all the reasons I've said, for recall, for just, the sheer fun of it and just helping to cement that learning. So I really want to push that agenda a bit more. I think we'll end up doing another concert with Fairburn singers. They certainly think that that's going to go forward, but we'll see how that goes. I'd like to bring in some more live music. COVID stopped quite a few things. So we did have more musicians coming into school before that and playing and giving them that experience. I'd love to do that again. And we can do that. I mean, if you go back to your money question, we do a huge amount of fundraising, as I mentioned, Christmas light switch-ons and stuff. So we have quite a healthy school fund. So we can use that to create curriculum experiences. And a big part of our curriculum per se is that we'll either bring someone in to enliven it, or we will take them somewhere so that it's in context and they get to hear the experience of that. So I think there's more opportunity for that in there. Certainly, the ECT, she's just got more confident with going out now and lead. We're on our second trip, and I think she's kind of got the bug for it now. It's like, oh, we're having 2 trips this term, we're off. So I think we'd like to build in more opportunities for live music and musicians coming in and get that going again, because that has sort of halted from COVID.
So you've got a plan.
I've got a plan. I've always got a plan. I've always got a plan.
I have no doubt that plan is going to be executed absolutely perfectly, and probably with loads of additional stuff that you haven't even thought of yet, like thrown into the mix.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time today. I know our listeners will have got loads out of that, whether they're small schools themselves or whether they're working in totally different setups. I think there was something for everybody there. So thank you for your time, and thank you for your wisdom as well, Emma Cornhill.
Thank you very much.
I found it so interesting talking to Emma. Obviously, you'll have picked up during that conversation that I've had quite a bit to do with music at Fairburn over the last couple of years. So not all of that information was new to me, but it's just really interesting to me to hear the approach and the passion and the understanding of how important music is from a head teacher. And yes, okay, she's a head teacher who's married to a music teacher, so you would think if she didn't believe in music that would be causing her problems in other areas as well. But it just goes to show that when you've got people in senior positions, when you're SLT, when your head teacher is on board with music, you can achieve fantastic things even in a situation where you're a very small school, you've got multiple different key stages happening in different classes, you've got a small staff, you haven't got the kind of level of specialist tuition that perhaps some of the other schools we've spoken to have. Even under all those circumstances, you can still do amazing things with music. And so if you've been listening to that as a smaller school, hopefully that's given you lots of inspiration and ideas. And if you've been listening to it as a larger school thinking, oh, we don't do that much stuff, this is your moment to kind of step up and take Emma's advice and get that SLT on board for you to really develop the music in your school. If you've enjoyed that conversation, you might want to listen to some of our other conversations. And depending on where you are listening, whether you're on YouTube watching us or whether you're listening on a podcast app, you will be able to either look underneath the video to find out how to subscribe, or it'll be in the podcast notes on your podcast app. We'll also put in there a link to our mailing list so that you can join that, and then we can bounce things out to you as and when we've got news and things to tell you. And we've got a couple more or one more episode left in this season. If you have been enjoying the conversations and thinking, I'd like to have a crack at that, we are now taking expressions of interest for season 2. So please do get in touch with us if you would like to be considered as a guest. We would love to have lots of you featured again in the autumn term so that we can celebrate all the wonderful work that schools are doing with music across the UK and beyond. Thank you for listening, and tune into our next episode. Primary Music in Conversation is presented by Dr. Liz Stafford, edited by Kay Charlton, and produced by Music Education Solutions.